the motivation to clean up, though.
It is. It's nice. It's nice to have. It's nice to have. Welcome back.
Okay. Okay. Sweet. It's fun to see the other side.
I know, right? The more and more I have, like, the longer I do, the more and more people are like, yeah, okay, this is what it looks like. I'm like, oh, well, yeah. This is the side you don't see right here. Here's the line right there. I'm slowly, like, trying to change everything, like, just like I got this line. It was here.
Oh.
It was over here. So I could see more. But then I had it here for a few episodes, and I was like, well, I don't like it. And I'll change it back. And then I seen it again, and I'm like, well, I don't like that. So I did it. So it's just constant decisions, like, should I do this? No. Yes, I should do that. It's fun, though. All right. Well, I'm going to do a little countdown. And then
Okay,
we'll
sweet.
run right into it.
I was like, yeah, I don't know if I should talk too much.
no.
I was like, I don't have anything to talk about.
Like, when I first started doing it, and a lot of people would try to, like, not, like, or try not to, like, talk to you about things before I came.
Yeah.
Just so we would have stuff to talk about. I'm like, dude, now I get you totally. I don't want to talk to you right now.
Don't talk to me.
All right, let's jump into it.
Yeah.
All right, and 3, 2. You talking to me? I'm talking to you. And this is Talking to Me, Talking to You. And I am joined by the lovely Sarah Gorak.
Yay.
Welcome. It's nice
Hey.
to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for
you so
having me.
much.
I'm
It's
so stoked.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked to get you. Like you're such a bubbly like person. I'm like I was told so much about you before I met you. I'm like, I want to meet this person. And so like I seen you play at a crooner circus. And
Yeah.
and I literally just like almost like fanboy ran up to you like, hey, hello, like, nice to meet
That's
you.
so
like,
weird.
I was like, nice to meet you. Like, how are you? I've heard so much about you. And you're like, yeah, cool. Hey, what's up? I'm Sarah. I'm like, ah.
It's a weird.
fun.
It's a weird thing because I'm so used to being the person that like stalks everybody else that it's weird to be like it's starting to like flip and I'm like there's more. That keeps happening to me where there's other people like that happened last night. Somebody came up to me and then it was like, hey, I follow you on Instagram. I'm like, how do I respond to that?
It's like, don't look at me. You know?
I'm like, thanks. I'm like, what do you say when someone just introduces themselves? I follow you on Instagram. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, thanks.
Thank you. I hope you like the pictures. Well, you got some competition now. I'm the awkward fan walking up saying hey to people now. But no, I got you here, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about like all the things you do. So
yeah.
First and foremost, you are a fantastic violinist.
Oh, thank you.
And fiddle player. I'll say both because you kind of play in both realms of that world. You I'm assuming you're like classically trained, and then you like just have fun and just so you play out. You do a bunch of different stuff. You play with a bunch of bands. You do solo stuff. I've noticed when you do solo stuff, you play with a looper a lot, and you'll play a bunch of different instruments. So, when did you get your start playing music and like specifically the violin?
Because violin's my primary instrument. So
Yeah.
I started it in like 4th grade beginner orchestra.
Okay.
And but the funny thing about it is I quit at first.
Really? That makes sense. I did that too. So
I get it now. Like as a teacher, like I understand when the kids are getting frustrated. I'm like, yeah, I was frustrated too, and I straight up quit. And I'm really glad my mom's like, no, we got this violin for you. You're gonna keep at least doing private lessons. And then I went through a couple different private teachers, and then I had a private teacher who was like, you really ought to go back to orchestra again and see if now that you've had some lessons, if you feel better about the like one-on-one attention. And I went back and I fell in love with the orchestra class. Like some of my closest friends I made in orchestra. I met my husband in undergrad orchestra.
Wow.
Got my degree in music ed. But I'm going to be really honest with you again. At the end of my degree, I almost quit again. Because like music school is not for the weak.
No, it's like being taught like through schooling and just the the repetitiveness of just like paperwork and like studying.
Right, or it's just so different.
It doesn't feel like a passion.
Yeah, when you start like deeply studying art, or it's more than just studying it. It's the fact like in that kind of a environment you're getting graded. And then especially in the like violin realm, things are just really competitive and really about being meticulous and perfect. And that burnt me out. And I was like, and if it hadn't been, so that's actually at that time when I graduated, I literally only kept playing to play hot cross buns and twinkle with my students. But then I don't know, I hit a wall at some point where I was like, I felt like, I don't know, I'm a person like I want to practice what I preach. And so it's like, I felt like I was kind of being phony, encouraging my students to like perform and stuff or practice their craft when I wasn't doing it. And I felt really like, I'm like, I gotta do something about this. And that's when I started studying fiddle styles.
Okay.
And doing like going to fiddle camps. I went to like jazz camp. I've been studying improvisation, and then that's how I met people who taught me how to loop and really learned how to do harmony and stuff like that.
That's really cool. That takes like an honest mindset too, to like really like look at like what you're doing. Like, okay, so I like this, but I don't like it enough to like fully dedicate to it. So like, where's you found your freedom in it, basically.
Right? Or it's finding the right like path, I guess, because it's like I think that's that's why I'm really passionate.
I can tell you have a lot more fun like doing like fiddle licks. Like,
right.
Like I was like blown away the first time because you just like kind of like did you plucked. And then just ripped a fiddle solo. And I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah,
it's great.
It's just like one of those things, and I encourage this to my students and to whoever. It doesn't, you don't have to be one of my direct students, but it's like finding your path, because I think that's the problem about most like typical music schools is they kind of like get you into being in a certain box, when really I feel like studying music should be about like you learn the kind of like default recipes, but then you learn how to spice it up to make it your own recipe.
You learn the formula but can plug in different numbers.
Right, exactly. And make it your own.
Exactly,
and that's I mean, and I've been really lucky to have really awesome mentors since graduating that like have really helped me with like figuring out who am I and what are the things I want to do with music versus them telling me, be like me.
Yeah, that's a good thing to have, is somebody to really direct you in the right way. Like, you don't have to be a copycat of like what you're being taught. You can become your own thing and find your own way. Like you said, you ended up finding it through, learning about jazz and playing fiddle. You've said it quite a few times. So you're a teacher. Do you do like private like teaching lessons? Do you teach a classroom?
I mean, I've done it all. Like,
okay.
I mean, like, cause my degree is a bachelor's in K through 12 music. Like all of them. I even learned how to play tuba. Like that was my favorite instrument. Like cause I had to learn all the instruments. That's kind of what like really sparked the multi-instrumentalist bug in me, though, was learning all the instruments. I'm like, hey, you know what? This is really fun. And like that was another like motivator when I felt really burnt out, was like that's when I started pursuing like really learning cello and teaching myself guitar and teaching myself ukulele.
When you started teaching others?
Mm-hmm. Or after graduating, and I was kind of like, I don't want to play violin. I was like, well, I do want to still play music, so I was just doing other instruments.
Yeah,
that's really what motivated me to do.
That's very cool.
But like out working with little kids, though, I mean, I do like private lessons right now. I also shout out to Band in the Bus with Nick Rose. I do bucket drumming, and I've just started teaching guitar.
Lord.
Yeah, but literally, I taught myself guitar because for two reasons. One, I was just like, when I would work with because I'll work with kids as young as preschoolers to as old as like, I've even worked with like adults that are in their 70s and retired.
Okay.
Like,
wow.
I've done it all. And I've even done it like not music. Like, I love working with like just teaching people. And so like I've done like daycare, Sunday school, like summer camp, blah blah.
Yeah, you're a humanist.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I don't know, there's something about having like a live instrument with the little guys, though. Like when we're like singing Old MacDonald, it's just like super cheesy to just always, I mean, it's like if mom and dad want you to listen to Old MacDonald on your like phone, you can do that whenever. It's like, if we're in a live class, I want to play it live.
Yeah, it's for the fun of like, the experience of doing the thing.
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah.
And that's why I
absolutely.
taught myself guitar so I could like live play and sing with them. But I also taught myself guitar because like the other thing that really motivated me was like going to open jams and things like that. And I would just like first couple years I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Like, but like, and then so in my head it was like, or there'd be times where I'm trying to collaborate with people, and like no offense, but it's like, they wouldn't be able to tell me like what they're doing. And so then I just be like, well, what am I supposed to play if you can't tell me what key you're in or something like. So then I literally taught myself how to play guitar so I can read their hands now.
Yeah, that's
and it helps a lot.
Well, and I feel you because I used to throw an open jam myself a few years back, and that like I play music. I don't play as much as I used to. I kind of fell out of it. I'm not as interested in it anymore. But I picked up like the camera stuff and the video stuff. But with that open jam, what I learned is that like just getting involved with whatever it is you're doing and like jumping in the middle of it, like jumping right in, and just like taking like and having good people to support that, like people that know it. Like I played with a lot of very great musicians in those open jams that taught me a lot just by purely playing with them. Not even telling me like, oh hey, you need to do this or do that, but just playing and being in the midst of those people like really taught me a lot how to play music. So that's it's cool to do that. Speaking of like just playing with all these different people, you're in a bunch of bands.
Oh yeah. I feel it's so funny like because when I watched the episode with Nick Heffron, I was like, I was just like, yo, so my goal in life is to beat him. No, I'm just kidding.
You hear that, Nick? You better watch out.
And I mean, I guess I'm sort of beating him if he's part of like half of those, but I don't know.
It's like you guys just join each other's bands just so you can like, hey, one more closer.
Actually, one of my like goals in life is to find a band that we could like do like a Chinese fire drill and like ready set switch. Like the problem is there's not enough people who play violin, but I can do the other ones. We could do keys or something.
I've heard so many people want to do that. That would be so cool to just see people just switch it.
Yeah.
Just like musical chairs, just like jump around.
Yeah, but I guess, okay, so all the things I can remember.
Let's do what we did with Nick. Let's go. Yeah. Let's count the bands.
So, like, I mean, there's myself. Like, so that's my
solo,
live looping
we'll count that.
singer-songwriter
We counted that with
stuff.
Nick, so we'll count that. Christy Kerr, you play with her?
Yeah. Or as a duo, it's called Nulu,
okay,
which is the Hawaiian word that means wave.
Okay.
The meaning behind that is we are both water signs and we make sound waves.
that's very cool.
And I guess connected to that, so me and Chris Kerr are the duo, but then we also will expand to full band. For Chris Kerr and the Secondhand Smoke.
Yeah, okay. Which has Nick in it, right?
Yeah, that's me, Chris, and then Nick Federico on guitar, Sam Ruscher on bass, and Nick Heffron on drums, bringing back the Infinity Spree vibes. But and then I also sometimes play cello with Anna Applegate and Preston Brill Charles. And then I'm in the Thrive Hip Hop Orchestra, Elements Hip Hop Orchestra.
Okay.
That's super fun. Shoot.
5.
I mean, those are the like active.
I know you play with
ones.
You play out with your husband too, right?
Oh yeah, I guess that counts.
There's 6. yeah.
And then, I mean, there's a lot of things like people. Oh wait, I remembered. I also will sometimes play with Sean Kelly. His tag is Sean Tierras.
Okay.
Or actually, it was initially that I played on his EP, but then we've played as a full band a couple times.
Okay, we got. I think we're tied with Nick right now.
Oh dang! Do I got one more?
I can't remember exactly.
No, it's all right. I mean, there's
7's
things.
A lot though.
Yeah, there's things like people will ask me to like randomly sit in on, but I feel like those are all the like active things.
Yeah, so. For sure. Well, that's a lot. I mean, and I've only seen you play solo, which I find your solo shows very. They're just fun. Like,
cool.
Like you kind of like you say, like you kind of break it down. Like you're not teaching anybody, but you kind of have that spirit, like of like a almost like a teacher. Like it reminds me, like it's just very joyful, very like, hey guys, I'm so happy to be here. You know, it's like very positive. Like, and then the songs, like so, you mentioned it, the Hawaiian name for your guys' band. You were born in Hawaii, correct? Yeah. So, just kind of tell me a little bit about that and like how you ended up here in Cincinnati.
Oh, sure. So like I was born in Hawaii, but me and my family moved to Seattle, Washington about when I was 8 years old. The irony with that though is like because we moved away from Hawaii, me and my mom felt really homesick, and that's when we got really dived into. So a fun fact about me that some people don't know is I used to do competitive hula dancing.
Okay. Okay.
And so like the Hawaiian culture is something I'm not. To clarify, I'm not Hawaiian blood. That's a distinct difference. It's not Hawaiian blood, but I was born there. It's not part of my ethnicity, but it's just where I was born.
Where you're born at, yeah.
And there is a distinct difference between that. The word is kama'aina when you're born there.
You obviously like definitely picked up a lot of culture from there.
Right.
Still stick true to
that. Oh
that
yeah,
today.
and that's the thing. Like that's why I feel like whenever I sit down to like songwrite or I don't know, the things that make me feel grounded and more like myself is like going back to my roots and bringing and helping my culture stay alive. And that's what I love to do. With like incorporating Hawaiian music like into my own songwriting, but also doing things like doing cover songs but translated in Hawaiian or doing actual traditional Hawaiian songs. Like it's kind of fun sometimes to like do the songs I used to hula dance to. It's like a weird experience because it's like I dance to them, but back then I didn't know harmony or how to play the songs.
Dancing, yeah.
Yeah, they're so subconsciously in my head though. And then it's weird to like learn how to play it because I don't know. To me, it feels like it's almost like you're visiting a childhood friend you haven't seen in like over a decade,
wow.
and like you get to see them again, and you're like, and it feels like it's been a while, but it also feels super familiar, and like so I love being able to do that, and being a like Asian Pacific Islander presence in the Midwest, but also the music scene and everything is something I'm really passionate about.
I really like that perspective. It's like, you know, it just kind of like keeping a hold of like what is a part of you, you know, like keeping that in you like along the whole journey instead of just like, because I mean I've moved around a lot, but I've been in the same area, you know, so I can't really look at myself as like, oh, you know, like I'm holding all these things that I experience, and you literally went from one side of the world to here, and so you're like, here's this, and now you're just literally like planting seeds into where you are now. You I was mentioning it because in your solo stuff you have this song about Cincinnati, and so what kind of just the journey here kind of inspired that?
Because going with the song is called Transplant, because it's like I've kind of relocated a bunch of times. And it's like...
That's why I use the word planting seeds, too.
Yeah. And I guess it's like, I don't know. So I guess how I ended up in Cincinnati is me and my husband, Peter, we were at undergrad together, and then we got married. And then he got a full ride to CCM because he's also a musician. He plays professional viola. And we moved out here because he got a full ride. And... the first few years living here was such a culture shock, being like over 3,000 miles away from any close family and like uprooting and being like, it was just me and him. And it was like, that's all we knew. We literally pulled our U-Haul into Cincinnati homeless. We didn't have a place to live when we pulled in. Oh, wow. That was in 2013.
Seattle?
Yeah.
Okay.
We drove all the way from Seattle. So... anytime I'm mad about traffic, I think about that.
Oh, man, I love it. That's great. Went through all the mountains. And so you drove that whole way? That must have been quite an experience.
Oh, yeah.
So that just kind of, so it just went into inspiring, like, the song that you wrote. So how...
Yeah, because I guess it's like, you know, because it's one of those things that it's like, you know, now we've lived in Cincinnati since, like, 2013. That's been a good chunk of time. Like, it's like 10 years.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things, like, people are always asking me, like... why did you move here? Or like, why would you not stay in Seattle? And I'm like, well, you know, things happen, but it's also, I don't know. So sometimes I get really conflicted because I do really miss my family. I do miss being able to be close to my immediate family. And we do really want to move back at some point, but there's a lot of things like, as we kind of like make it like grow into and make things our own, you kind of like make a new home for yourself. So it's kind of like, yeah, I feel really homesick, but I also feel like we've created such a home here now that I would be equally as homesick to leave. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel that way anytime we like travel back to visit.
Yeah, and just like I said, like bringing your Hawaiian culture into like into Cincinnati and your music and just trying to just say it out loud. I could see you doing that if you moved back to Seattle. You would make a song. You would take all the culture you learned from Cincinnati. I bet you'd be like, "You guys ever ate a hot dog with chili on it?" I bet that'd be one of the first things you showed your Seattle friends, and they would think you're crazy. But that's what's kind of cool about you. You're a very personal person. You'd seem like you kind of wear your heart on your sleeve.
Oh yeah. If you're like familiar with Myers-Briggs at all, I'm an ENFJ, and like an ENFJ in a nutshell is like I thrive off of being a people person. like
you over there like
I'm the it's like an altruistic it's like an altruistic what's the word? Altruistic, like I don't know. Like it's just like that's what I live for, is connecting with people, and connecting those people with other people is like what gives me a lot of joy. And again, it's like the best way you connect with people is being like super authentic. So
absolutely, yeah, being yourself and just saying what you think like about everything, and just being like, yeah, absolutely. It's hard for a lot of people, I mean, it's a weird thing. It's like a weird social like boundary that people create that doesn't allow them to be themselves fully. And I think what comes with that is just like for me at least, that like just being okay with embarrassment. That like let me kind of be myself more and stuff. I try to take things on the chin. You know what I mean? Like when I mess up, I go, oh, I messed up. I'm sorry. Here's my apology. You don't have to accept it, but there it is. Like I'm gonna do what I can do best to be sorry for it. And just be grateful that I can have an outlook to work on myself like that, because a lot of people don't. It's a hard thing to accept. Like just having boundaries in
right,
your,
or just
like
it's
mental
just like
blocks.
it's just like being able
Being
to
nervous
look
around people.
It's just being comfortable with like discomfort, or comfortable with like looking at yourself in the mirror, whatever that is, because it might not always be about being wrong, but it's about facing yourself.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Something that really like changed my mindset, since you're like, this is a podcast, hopefully you like other podcasts, if you want to check other podcasts out. The one that like rocked my world, my really good friend named Andy Reiner, Reiner, he has a podcast called The River of Suck podcast.
The River
and the whole concept behind this in a nutshell is like you have to be willing to suck at things in order to get better at them. But let's like diving into it, like like you have to know, like it's not like, oh, I'm gonna be all right and then like do the hard thing. No, it's like diving in and just being like fully embracing that things just suck sometimes. Absolutely. And that's how you wade through it. And his podcast is really cool because he interviews like musicians, athletes, scientists. Like Temple Grandin's one of them, who did all these big things for like behavior science. Brewers, like he interviews all these different people.
And everybody basically.
Right. I mean, he is primarily a musician, so it is like easy to get musicians to come in and talk about like the headspace, of being like a musician. But I think it's neat to hear. To me, it's like at first I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll be interested in listening to like the scientists because I can't relate. But it's like to me it's like
just information. It's good.
It's just about being a human and seeing that it's like it doesn't really super matter what our specialty's in. We all are humans, and each field is gonna go through that same process of like, in order for you to become an expert, quote unquote expert in your field, you have to be willing to be a beginner.
The experience. It's the experience of being a human being, whether like whatever path you take, wherever you end up at. That's the deal. You said that was the River of Suck?
Yeah, River of Suck.
I had a wise musician tell me one time, like, you got to make 100 bad songs to make one good song.
Oh, yeah.
And that runs right into that. That's a great saying. Who said that? Who was it that said that? Jimmy Klepper. Klepper said that.
Okay.
That's
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. And that's the thing also why I love live looping. And like Andy, also my improv jazz violin mentor Rob Flax, they do a thing called the looping master class. With all of us going on Zoom and everything, we've been doing like class workshops on how to live loop. And that's the thing we talk about live looping, because live looping, you're on the spot recording yourself. So it's like you have to like we talk about it being like an Etch-a-Sketch of like you have two choices. You either shake the Etch-a-Sketch and start over, or you make it work with what you got. And so like when you got the live loop, it's like you get to listen to yourself if you mess it up that first time over and over and over again, and you have to either be okay with listening to it bad and like just roll with it and like, because most of the time the audience don't know, like there's like you watched me play, I messed up a ton of times, but you probably didn't know, but I knew because the loop didn't go how I planned it. But it's like, but if you don't give it away, people don't know. That's the secret to performing, is like, just don't give it away.
If you hit the wrong note once, just hit it again the next time around.
Right. Well, but with live looping, that very first like track is gonna repeat over and over. So it's like if you mess it, it's gonna miss it every time unless you stop it and restart like an Etch-a-Sketch.
I have a lot of good friends that are like acoustic guys that that's all they basically use is a loop pedal. They'll play the riff or the chords.
Oh, but homie's got it so easy with frets. So it's like we're talking a whole different story with no frets. That's why. But that's okay. That's also maybe why I play ukulele and guitar sometimes. For real though, I really believe. I think anybody who says talks any crap about multi-instrumentalists being like mediocre at everything, that's a lie. I really believe if you learn other instruments, they just help you on the other instruments. It's like so like my two friends Andy and Robert hosting a thing called the Improv Multiverse, and like because their whole idea is like approaching like everybody like when you hear improvisation typically think about jazz and just using it in music, but really the best improvisers are people who it's like you take that approach to like life, right? But that's what I mean though, like it's the same with live looping. You can either stop and start over, or you can just go.
Let it go. Let the world be its thing. And that's a great philosophy too to go by. Like, and I try to run by that, especially with making movies. I mean, it's you write it, like you write a script, you change that countless times. You start filming it, you start changing stuff while you're filming, and then you start editing, and then you just start. So you have like 3 layers, and you're constantly changing it. Yeah. So it's just like being adaptive and constantly willing to work with what you got. Right. And like the funny thing it's the thing that's so funny about live looping is sometimes you do like a mistake or like what you didn't. I shouldn't even say it's always a mistake. It's not always that it sounds wrong. It's just like what you didn't plan. Like say like you that's
add like because it might not sound bad. It might just be a different rhythm than you meant. Yeah. Or it wasn't your plan, but it might not be a mistake, if that makes sense. But then it's like, but then sometimes that happens and you're like, wait, maybe I kind of liked that. That happens to me sometimes where I did it on accident and I'm like, oh. Wait, that layer sounds cool. I think I'm gonna do that from now on.
All the time. The 2 best like looks I did in this movie, I was like, like a cool look. I did just by being awkward.
Yeah.
Like I was just
no, for real. Like you're totally right. Like I've done when I did a photo shoot with my friend, Cherie. She was telling me like pose and make a weird face, and I'm like, why? And she's like, trust me. I'm like, okay. And I did it, and I was just like, I don't know. I held my violin upside down, and I was just like scrunching my face like that. And the picture looks so badass. And I was like, okay, I'll trust you now, because I'm like, I felt like it was not gonna look cute, and it looks cool though. And like you're right.
you gotta go with the flow.
Yeah, and that's why I love like live loop. When I meet somebody and I know that they're a live looper, I know that they have the type of personality where they're gonna like, you have to be somebody who's willing to take risks and willing to like roll with the punches, because you literally have to do that when you're doing a live looping. Because again, it's not like the difference between live looping and like tracking something is you don't have the choice to like always like just cut it out.
Yeah,
it's right there. Everybody's watching you while you're doing it.
Unless you're gonna embarrass yourself and be like, sorry guys, I got fucked up. I fucked up. Let me restart.
Yeah.
Like you let them know that you messed up. If you restart. If you don't, and just let it go.
Or you don't. Or sometimes like you just don't. Or like my favorite people. There's all these different looping techniques of like you can just keep playing and then use your feet to edit it, and people would not even notice that you messed up. There's other times where like my friends will just like yell out something like fun, like one of my friends yells like party time or something, like when there's a mistake, like party time, and while they're yelling, then they fix it. Or like sometimes people just straight up are like, I'll do this sometimes where I just straight up be like whoops, and like like live looping. Yeah, I love I love that there's like a looping family happening though. Like me or my friend and bandmate Preston Charles are starting to host like a looping open mic.
I did see something about that. That's very cool. Where's that at?
Well, right now it's happening at Homemaker's Bar, but it's probably going to be relocating in the future. Okay. So we'll have to stay tuned. It might be happening on different nights, because again, it's like I mean, just like any open mic, you're gonna have people who are like actually gigging. So it's like, or the hosts, like me and Preston gig, and so like that's why we're chatting. We're like, let's co-host, so like we can meet each other.
One's busy, the other.
Yeah, and then like, but we were even chatting about the future of like, we might not have a consistent day it's on, so that way more different people can come out. Cause I've been surprised how many different looping things happen. It's funny because it's like even Nick Heffron like hosted a looping thing, and it was because there was one day he like live streamed looping, and then I like watch, because I like stalk him all the time, watch every single thing he does, and like and I like I was like typing on his live stream like, hey, I have my looper set up, can I like join your stream and let's share loops? And he's like, okay, and like so we were doing that, and I'm like, you know what, Nick, we should have like a looper showdown show. And then he did it. He did it. MLT had all these looper showdowns, and we invited, or I told him all the loopers I knew, and it was like, and then there's like all more people just started like popping up, being like, hey, I live loop too. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And
just manifested out of pure excitement and stalking.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like, hey, you're doing it. I want to do that too. Let's do that together. Oh, you other people also want to do this?
Yeah.
And then just turns into this cool event.
Yeah,
awesome.
And then, well, even like, I don't know if you've seen this video, but the way me and Nick Heffron met was through looping, sort of. One of the bands I used to be in had a Beatles tribute night, and there's this dude on the group chat that's just like, I'm gonna play a whole Beatles set in chronological order. What? That's Nick Heffron. and then so like I like hit him up, and I was like, hey, if you want strings on like any of your songs, like maybe Eleanor Rigby, because there's string quartet, like we should like do something. And that's how we became friends. But then
you guys did this already?
Yes.
Oh man, I wish I would have seen it.
And there's, I mean, but the thing was cool though, because like, so again, Eleanor Rigby's truly a string quartet. So me being the overachiever arranger that I am, I'm like, Nick, I can't just play this on one instrument with you. And so I'm like, I was like, do you trust me? And he's like, sure, I'm game. he's that attitude of like, yeah, let me try anything once.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm gonna live loop this. And so like, cause that's hard.
Yeah.
So normally it's like live looping with somebody else. Like you have to trust that other person like a lot. So yeah, no, I live.
You better loop this right.
Yeah, so I live looped all 4 parts on like, cause I have a 5-string violin viola, and so then I also used my octave pedal down and had the cello part on there, did cello, viola, violins, and then he sang it. But then after we did that, then he saw me later and like saw me sing, and he got mad that I didn't sing with him. So now I'm paying him back and singing in a band with him. Because that event was so cool too, because that's also how it's sort of how I befriended Nick Fed. Was we collaborated, and again, it's one of those things in my arranger brain. He wanted to do a When I'm 64, and if you're familiar with the Beatles at all, When I'm 64 is a clarinet ensemble. And in my head, I'm like, well, I could play these riffs on violin, I guess, but nah, like, I gotta blow into something. And so I played it on melodica. I, like, learned melodica just to play that song.
Wow. The likes you're for real about that, and in every instrument.
Yeah.
My friend Dylan, he put, what is it? It's like a shell. It's
wait.
It's
like a conch shell? Or?
Yeah, it's like a shell, but it's got like little holes on it.
Oh, is that like the ocarina? Like from...
Ocarina,
okay.
It's a
yeah,
ocarina,
okay.
Yeah. He always plays the Lincoln, or not the Link, Zelda. He always plays the Zelda theme song.
Yeah, I'm always that person that's super into like weird instruments, or like people will just sometimes gift me stuff. Somebody like randomly was like, "Hey, do you want a like xylophone boat?" Yes. Like why? Like
See, I'm getting to the point too where I'm getting lost on the instrument names. I'm like, what's that? I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
That's cool. You do have like I do. What I admire most about you is that you do have this openness to just like let things happen in the world, and then but bring along all the things that you have experience and develop them into what you're doing now. I think it's very cool. It's very cool. You're a very generous person. You're very you're very you're inspiring by just like allowing yourself to be you, which that like you like bring people up by doing that. Like just from what I've seen in the short time of knowing you, it's nice to see people being people and being a humanist and just bringing people up, you know. Yeah, just being a good person overall. It's been a delight having you here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming out. You can come anytime you want.
Oh.
Bring a band, maybe.
I know, that'd be fun. I want to bring Chris out.
You got 7 of them.
I know. Shoot, I'm like, or wait, I mean, it's more than 7 if we're counting the whole hip hop orchestra.
Oh, it's true. I might have to.
Those people are super dope, by the way.
I'm like, to go back and watch Nick's and see how many he had to see who's winning this most bands competition. But anyway, Sarah, thank you so
thanks
much.
For having me.
Appreciate you. You have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you.
This been Talking to Me, Talking to You. Thanks for watching.